Oh, I didn't even put down about the, they're going to pay you $37 to a viral for oil to take the oil off their hands.
Pay to take it off their hands? Yeah.
If you've got a large swimming pool, you could maybe make $37,000, but then what are you going to do with all that oil?
Right. Hey, Tristan, you there? I only have one side on these phones. You know what? It was just slightly.
And the other thing, just real quick, I'm gonna unplug this.
I just touched this and I got it back.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. So it's here.
Okay, it's probably right in
Yeah,
there.
right.
Cool. I'll check it out later.
Hello, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada, and the world's Freedom Talk Radio. Yes, we're held worldwide on www.americamatters.us, broadcasting right now. And I'm Brendan Traynor, your host, and my co-host is Leland Faegre.
And we have 195 days until the general election.
Okay. Countdown.
Yeah. The last time I mentioned that, I think it was 285 or something like that. So it's coming along.
Yeah, and the Trump PAC ads have started.
Uh-huh.
And
they're
first,
damn good.
Yes, especially the one, in my opinion, on Pelosi.
Let them eat ice cream?
Yes. Nancy Antoinette.
It is a very, very good ad. Very polished, done very, very well.
Yeah.
That's Pascal.
Okay.
You know, he's very good.
Yep.
That's why he's there.
Yep. So, I mean, she is completely out of touch. You know, her husband is a big military-industrial complex guy. She made almost $200 million while she was in Congress. Mm-hmm. So,
you know, I would take issue with the way you described her. Actually, she's very much in touch with her constituency.
In the Bay Area, you mean?
Well, I mean just on the left, you know.
Okay.
The hate Trumpers, that crowd.
Yeah, right.
Very in touch with those people.
Not so much with the left populists that I kind of listen to.
Not necessarily ice cream aficionados, but
yes,
you know, close to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's in touch with them, but she's not in touch with the American people.
Real Americans. Yeah.
You know, the latest poll shows that among young people, these were the ones that Bernie was supposed to support. Among young people, 57% say they're for Biden and only 20% for Trump. But
that much, huh?
Yeah,
well,
but
so
more than that, more than 20% are either for third party or they're not going to vote at all.
Uh-huh. And I think that's
none of the above is the second most.
Yeah,
in other words,
that's usually how it turns out too.
Yeah,
we can only elect Donald Trump.
That's right. We can elect Donald Trump. Thank you, Joe. I love how he says "excuse me" before he says that in that clip. Excuse me. We can only elect. So he wanted a special fermata there, so that you'd slow down and listen to what he had to say.
And if anybody saw the three-way split screen with Anderson Cooper, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and Biden, and how he stumbled trying to remember what FDR did in World War II, and if you looked at Sanjay Gupta's face, the doctor, he was like grimacing, like, "What is this? Let me out of here." And
how did Biden describe FDR's use of the implementation of what he was describing there? He described it as a group or a... Remember how he...
I don't know exactly.
He didn't understand it was an act of Congress.
Oh, okay.
And so he just fumbled through the whole thing. I wish we had that clip. We'd use that right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christian. We'll get that for you.
And his podcasts are severely edited. You know, he has a Joe Talk with Joe or whatever podcast, and they edit those down.
I
pretty
bet
good.
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. So the one about China was good too. I mean, especially when they're talking about Hunter Biden and corruption and so on. I have no problem with bringing back supply chains. Even Adam Smith said that free trade should be limited if it's a matter of national defense. So, if you want to bring back the some of the supply chains because you're worried about our defense in times of something like we're going through now.
Things that are strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I haven't heard of any shortages of antibiotics yet, have you?
No, but you could just see a picture where these people would withhold product if they needed to secure some sort of strategic benefit to Chinese.
Yeah, but the only thing that turns me off is the constant propaganda and I don't
know how much of it is propaganda, though. I mean, as we talked about this on the show in previous episodes of Talking Truth to Power, I was the first to suggest that maybe this originated here, this virus originated here, and was sent there with those 350 soldiers in the games. That we have no proof of that, but we do know that they withheld information. That much is clear.
When?
In November. They knew what they had in November.
No, that's up to debate.
No, I don't think there's any debate. This is just the far left propaganda machine of China versus the United States of America.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit too, because according to the documentation, they at first thought it was a pneumonia. There were
because there were
Mongolese patients that were getting it. They thought it was a pneumonia. It was only at the end of December that they realized it was another coronavirus.
Well, the timeline is a little blurry, but the point is that they withheld information. Well, and because Trump didn't implement his travel ban for another month. And he would have done it right then had he known.
Well, that's also open to interpretation.
No, you can call Trump anything you want, but he's a patriot.
They didn't. Oh, yeah, he is a patriot.
So he would have done it right then had he known.
He did do it before there were any deaths. That's true.
That's true.
But China shut down Wuhan at the end of January, or close to the end of January, is when they shut down Wuhan.
Well, they don't care about their own.
Well, they do, man.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
They slaughtered 60 million people.
That was in Mao's
That's
time.
the same people.
These are the same people.
These are the heirs. They just want a more respectable appearance to the rest of the world. That's all.
No.
That's all. It's just a blur.
Look, they are an authoritarian dictatorship. But
you just answered my question.
That's part of their culture. They always have been a monarchy.
You're just a doctrinaire libertarian.
No, I'm not, because if a doctrinaire libertarian would insist that they be something else, and I do want them to be something else. But as a matter of fact, their system is a mixture of Confucianism, Maoism, and the last two presidents. I can't think of his name, the one that opened up China to capitalism before this one.
Deng?
Yeah. All right, let's come back after the break.
Deng Xiaoping?
Low-dose chemotherapy uses only 10 to 20% of full-dose chemo, and it's known as IPT, or... This is America Matters Media
on AM 1180 KCKQ,
a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now, back to the show.
Science!
All right, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. And, we're being constantly blinded by science here.
Here in the studio?
No, here in America.
Oh, I see.
In this country, because the left is constantly quoting bad science, and they're accusing the right of bad science. And now the national security state may have been pushing a lot of bad science on us. So, we were talking about what really happened with China, and we don't know for sure yet. It's still an investigation, but I'd like to bring up some of the things that you're not going to hear on the news at this point. And this was reported in an Indian magazine, and India is not exactly a BFF with China. They have their disagreements and worries about China. But the Chinese ambassador to Russia, Zhang Hanyi, emphasized that
easy for you to say.
Yeah, the story of COVID-19 is just unfolding. In an article in TASS, which was surely vetted by Beijing, he says that 5 top Chinese organizations have collected 93 genome specimens based on inputs from 12 countries on 4 continents. And they show that COVID-19 has a great-grandfather and 2 grandparents and another parent. And they labeled the original virus MV1. This produced 2 separate halotypes, H13 and H38. These 2 halotypes evolved into H3, which evolved into H1, COVID-19. Now, H3 was discovered in Wuhan, but not in the seafood market. H13 and H38 have not been found in Wuhan. So the missing ancestors could have come from anywhere. Now, they also say that COVID-19 first appeared in Lombard, Italy as early as January 1, and according to Italian medical specialist Giuseppe Ramuzzi, the COVID-19 virus was in Italy before it was in China.
And at the Safeway in Santa Clara County, and about 2 weeks later.
Now, the CDC director, Robert Redfield, and you've seen him on TV. He doesn't have as big a profile as Fauci, but he speculated that the large number of flu deaths. Did you know that 80,000 people died of flu just this last winter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's an interesting
the
statistic.
seasonal flu.
Yes, the seasonal flu.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And he thought some of these, or many of these flu deaths could have been COVID-19. And he also wants to look into those mysterious vaping deaths that we went through and see what's going on there.
I do too.
Italy has both asked for, he and Italy have both asked for postmortem testing of these victims, but so far they have been denied that opportunity. But medical science is more than capable of tracing, and the scientists are not going to be deterred. And this is a worldwide adventure. We already talked about a couple of weeks ago that scientists in Korea and Taiwan and Japan believe in the branch and the tree and branch theory that says that the country, there's one country that's the tree, and then then it forms different branches in other different countries. And so far, the only branch, the only tree that has shown all of these COVID-19
symptoms,
strains or haplotypes is the U.S. China has one. Korea, Southeast Asia, and Australia have another, and Italy and Iran, and I don't know if Israel is even letting us know what they have, but Italy and Iran have another one. So none of these viruses are actually possibly interrelated, or if they are, the only country that has all of them is the U.S. So we're going to find out more and more. Like I said,
we're the land of the plenty.
Yes. These branches are not going to, these scientists are not going to be deterred. They have a mission and they're going to find out. Just like the scientists at Stanford, which you can see them on the, if you're on if you're doing nothing while you're quarantined here, you can go to the, oh gosh, I can't think of it now. The, what's the free videos that everybody, YouTube. You can go on YouTube and go to the Hoover Institute on YouTube, and you have a lot of good discussions there.
Hoover Institute has a YouTube channel?
Yes, they do.
Oh, isn't that cool?
Yeah. And you can see in-depth talks with the scientists, and what they found is that many, many more people have been infected than we are aware of. And so the fatality rate, now that we're starting to get the denominator in the question, the numerator is appearing less and less significant, that the percentage of people that die is shrinking down from 4% to maybe the same or slightly more than the seasonal flu. Mm-hmm. So that is one reason why,
Well, that's why the models are so ridiculous.
Yes, I know.
and some of the governors that are opening up are recognizing this publicly.
Publicly, yes.
To explain their behavior, their actions, because they're being targeted.
Right. And there's a couple other things about the virus that, for example, all that brouhaha about people going to the beach in Florida, it's very hard to contract the disease in the open air because it disperses the virus.
They don't want us to know this.
Plus you get the vitamin D from the sun, which is very good for your immune system.
I mean, think about it. I saw a meme somewhere over the last couple of days, and there were examples where this was okay, but this was not okay.
Right.
So it showed a guy out fishing. That wasn't okay. Because these authoritarians would have us believe that we're going to infect the fish? Is that the...
And in Michigan, you can go out in a rowboat, but not in a motorboat?
Yeah. Gretchen Whitmer, by the way, she had apparently was employed by George Soros.
Oh.
Did you know that?
Well, no, that's another link in the chain.
Isn't that interesting? Yes. That would explain a lot.
Yes, it would. Listen, I've got a couple of health tips for you.
Wait, let me jot these down.
Okay. Did you know that if you lose your sense of smell, you've got COVID-19?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yes. So you don't even have to be tested. Go immediately to your doctor or hospital.
So when I had my deviated septum surgery many years ago, I lost some of my sense of smell. Does that mean I need to go in and have that checked out?
Well, hopefully it wasn't around way back then, but who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. And then another thing is...
That's kind of what we're getting to here in this segment, isn't it?
Yeah. Another thing is you should invest in an oximeter.
Yes.
That measures the level of oxygen in your blood. And they cost from $30 to $50 or more on Amazon, but it's going to take several weeks to get it. But or maybe you can find one in a pharmacy, CVS or something. But the thing is that when the virus first attacks you, it starts destroying the air sacs in the lungs. But that doesn't keep you from breathing immediately, and you're still expelling carbon dioxide, CO2. So you don't even notice it. Your lungs are breathing more rapidly.
They're adjusting?
They're adjusting to it, and you may not even notice it. By the time you notice shortness of breath, you may be in big trouble.
Yeah, it's too late.
So you should monitor your oxygen in the bloodstream. That's very important. Those are just two tips from Dr. Trainer.
Yeah, but those are damn good ones.
So
send me an invoice.
Right. So again, we don't know anything yet. Those who keep saying that China is definitely the cause, or that China, even that China hid or gave us false information, that's still not certain at all. On this show a couple of weeks ago, we reported that the intelligence agencies didn't see this and that they didn't report anything. And then Esper, Secretary of Defense Esper, has denied that he got an intelligence report on this. Well, guess what? Israel kind of contradicted him, our best ally, our only friend in the Middle East. They came out with a report yesterday that says they knew back in November that China was going to have a very dangerous virus, which could either mean that China was covering it up, although that's under dispute, or it could even mean that we planted it there.
Well, and that goes to what I was addressing earlier. Both of those scenarios I would be interested in discussing.
Right.
I think it's worthy of discussion.
Yes.
Because we, as we said, until we get... and when you consider the sources that we're going to be getting this information from,
right,
whether it's the World Health Organization or the intelligence community.
Community, as they're called. Somebody tell me where this community is. I don't
know, but they're in quotes, so we should be able to find them somewhere. Somewhere
yes,
they
somewhere.
Exist. Yeah.
So
even if it's just in Bremer's mind.
So, like I said, bring back the supply chains if you must, but just stop the propaganda and the name calling, and thugs and they hate us and all this stuff.
Well, there's more to it than that in the next segment.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dennis Patterson. I'm the founder and owner of Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists. At Nevada Advanced Pain Specialists, we take a comprehensive approach to treating patients with chronic pain and the great...
This overload.
Shannon Lawson here. Join us for the Nevada Radio Roundup, Fridays at 2 p.m. A good news variety show all about the local scene. The Nevada Roundup, Friday at 2.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada and the World's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Traynor, and my co-host is Leland Faegre. And we've been talking all things COVID-19, all things about fake science and...
just all things.
All things.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about opening up, and I saw on MSNBC where one of their talking heads said that the American people marching to open up are Nazi and Confederates or Tea Party retreads. In other words, he actually called them Fox News Nazi Confederate Rump Party.
They really know how to flatter a talk show host, don't they?
That's kind of like dog-faced pony soldier.
All of a sudden, I was just lifted up there.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yes, you are. So that is the way they talk on there, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, so whoever's watching, and the numbers are obviously quite low, is getting that kind of indoctrination every single day.
Right.
They have no chance to understand anything. It's just
and they have to go on YouTube and watch Jimmy Dore or Hill Rising or Aaron Mate over in the Gray Zone. Some real progressives, and not listen to these
Brian Williams,
Brian Stelter on CNN.
Oh man, who are these people?
I know.
And that's the A team.
Yes, that's the A team. Chris Cuomo.
Yeah. That's the A team. I mean, and some of these people, you look at them, and you say, "What if they just pulled them off the street?" You want to be on television?
I wish they would pull some people off the street.
It would be better for us.
Yeah.
And I noticed during the briefings that what they're doing on MSNBC and CNN are pulling away at the very moment that Trump has their way with the journalists in the debriefing room. The minute Trump looks good is when they pull away from the briefing,
right?
Because it makes obviously Trump look good, and they don't want their viewers to see that. So
now they're pushing a small study that shows that quinine medication doesn't work.
Hydroxychloroquine. Yeah, and they made quite a scene of that yesterday, didn't they? In the briefing and before, and it doesn't preclude the viability or efficacy of the particular drug, just because that study, in that particular study,
right, which was a small study,
it was not particularly efficacious, if we believe any of that. So, Yeah. And it was a very small study.
But, when they said that the protesters reminded them of, they thought they were back 10 years ago with the Tea Party. Mm-hmm. And, the Tea Party and the Second Amendment, remember how they freaked out in Virginia about the Second Amendment protesters?
Yeah, they still are freaking out.
Those are just dog whistles for white people.
Sure. Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they can't stand white people marching. See, because whites... And the fact is that whites can only march for what they believe in if they do not call themselves white. God forbid, God forbid that white people ever explicitly organized as a white group. Hispanics, blacks, and Jewish people can form groups explicitly around their interests, but white people can't, or else it's hate. Mm-hmm. You can have a black congressional caucus or a Hispanic caucus, but you don't dare have a white congressional caucus.
And they get away with that in their viewership.
Right.
That's the amazing part, is they actually get away with it.
Well, in one of the shows coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about a professor named Kevin McDonald. He teaches at
he's very good.
Yeah, University of Santa Barbara, California.
Yeah.
And he tells you exactly what's going on here. But at any rate, most of the conflicts between Christians and Jews are blamed on simple hate. The Christians rise up because suddenly remember that the Jews killed Jesus and they rose up against them.
It's our fault.
Yeah, I know. It's all our fault. Yeah. We'll get into that a little more in the final segment. But historians mostly talk about the fringe beliefs like the blood Passover or the poisoning the wells. The Jews supposedly poison wells. But most of those
Did they poison the wells too?
Yeah, that's what they said. In the Middle East, they put bags. In the Middle Ages, they claimed that the Jews were putting bags of poison in the wells. Some people
rascals.
Did. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
But those were actually fringe beliefs. Most of the problems arise over real-life conflicts over resources, not hate. So in the U.S., whites cannot organize around real political issues that define declining economic and cultural power, because that would be hate. So whites are at an explicit disadvantage over the ordinary political conflicts over resources that a democracy has, mm-hmm. because if they do that, it's hate. They can't do that.
Right.
So
they hate democracy, so it's the same thing.
Right. We hate democracy. Yeah.
It's the same issue,
and that's why Trump is the new Hitler, and
he's perfect Hitler too. Isn't
he?
I mean, he's just the best Hitler you could possibly ask for.
Fascism is partly defined by having an organized paramilitary, like the Nazis had the brown shirts in Germany. Mm-hmm. I don't see any paramilitaries on the right. The only paramilitaries I see are on the left, the Antifa crowd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who, for whatever reason, are officially sublimated to the closets, or where are those people these days?
And nobody goes after them. I mean, we don't see anybody investigating them, but the FBI is constantly looking for white supremacists.
Yeah, and yet they don't look for them.
Right.
And apparently they're just waiting, in the wings. Is that the deal?
Probably, yeah.
Till October.
Yeah.
195 days to the next general election. Did I mention that?
Okay. So
we got to sharpen our knives.
Yep. And before we get into the final segment, which we're going to have to call security for, but anyway, the U.S. media was fooled again. The U.S. media was fooled by U.S. propaganda 2 times recently. The first one was that Kim Jong-un is brain dead. And he's obviously not the most physically fit man on the planet.
Remember what Tucker said?
Yeah.
When they went to the demilitarized zone with Trump,
mm-hmm.
the network went there. He said that he was out of shape. He couldn't catch his breath.
Well, did you know when he was young, he was not the firstborn, and he was small, so the family force-fed him, so he'd look bigger. Mm-hmm. That's why he's so fat.
It obviously stayed with him.
Plus, he's a heavy smoker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But apparently, this was a psyop that was pushed by a National Endowment for Democracy. If you don't know who they are, they're a neocon group that have direct ties to Pompeo and the national security state. And also, there was reports that Daniel Ortega of Nicaragua was missing or sick or dead.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, that was in the news. Maybe not as large because, most of the time the mainstream media doesn't care about Central America until they start migrating here.
Maybe he was infected.
Could be. Yeah. He could be. But Nicaragua is actually doing a pretty good job
of
preventing. They're doing a better job than our allies in Honduras and San Salvador.
El Salvador.
El Salvador, yeah. San Salvador is the capital. But they have too big a border to patrol, mountainous and jungle or whatever. So they're letting the immigrants in, but then they question them at the border and they follow up. If you come across the border, you're liable to get a phone call or even a visit from the Nicaraguan, constabulary asking how you feel and taking your temperature.
I'll bet they're taking your temperature.
But that
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, obviously America's too big to be able to do that. We can barely get the tests out. But it's interesting. But it appears to be working. Also, Venezuela appears to be doing a good job with their COVID-19, contrary to what you would expect.
Nobody wants to go there. So.
And I wonder how they're doing with oil, because most of the Venezuelan oil is tar sands oil. So it must cost a bit of money to get out.
No doubt. And there's no place to store it.
Right.
Nobody wants it.
Oil futures for May are negative $37.
We couldn't pay people to take it off their hands.
I know. So they have no place to store it, and because demand is so low, all these tankers coming across the ocean are still full.
They have no place to store it. This is a depression. It will be determined in retrospect to be a depression. The only question is how severe and how long it lasts. But I wanted to go to something that Buchanan pointed out in his most recent article the other day, and all of this discussion about sending China an invoice for the damage. And I'll just read what he says. There's talk on Capitol Hill of refusing to pay off U.S. bonds because they hold about $1 trillion of our debt right now. That's probably not all of it, but at least that much. And suing China for the damages. And he says Americans should think long and hard before defaulting on U.S. government debt and consider the consequences if we open a door to claims against sovereign nations for past sins.
Right.
Iraq was invaded in 2003 to force it to give up illicit weapons of mass destruction, which it did not have. Baghdad could have a case in international court against us. And while the U.S. appears determined to bring back manufacturing, especially of products critical to the to our health concerns, safety, and defense of our nation, there seems to be no stomach among the public for a war with China. So those are his concerns in his most recent article, and I thought I would share that with our listeners around the world.
A war with China would be disastrous, a physical war. But whether or not we're trying germ warfare is what we have to consider. And shocking as it may be,
that's what we have.
Have you, a friend, or family member been diagnosed with cancer? Dr. Forsyth at the Forsyth Cancer Care Center offers an all-inclusive program.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
This is America Matters Media
on AM 1180 KCKQ,
a Lotus broadcast station, the power of radio since 1967.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Talking Truth to Power, Nevada's and the world's Freedom Talk Radio.
Imagine that they couldn't listen to the whole show.
Yeah.
Not a shame they wouldn't be able to listen to the whole show. But if that, comes about, then you can tune in later on the podcast. Pretty cool.
Lee, it's another time for another segment of Jews in the News.
I'll get the security waiting here.
Before I begin, let us remember, Israel is America's greatest ally. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. People of all religions are represented in the Israel Knesset. Israel is very gay-friendly. They don't throw gays off of roofs. There should be no daylight between the USA and Israel. Nevertheless, sometimes we have to kind of criticize them just a little, very respectfully.
Oh, I feel much better now.
Also, we understand no matter how badly Jews act, it is ultimately our fault, always and every time. That being said, Jews spit. Jews have spit on Christian clergy and religious symbols for hundreds of years. Many riots and pogroms in Eastern Europe have been set off because Orthodox Christians often march with their icons on holy days, and Jews spit on them. Since, after all, we are a so-called Judeo-Christian civilization...
I think it's considered a sport, isn't it?
This kind of behavior seems out of place for our fellow religious brethren. In Israel, where Jews are the dominant in society, Jews regularly spit on Christians. It's almost as if they were not our wayward brothers, but actually hate Christians.
I think they get points in heaven for doing that.
if only they had a heaven. Yeah. With the large number of COVID-19 infections, spitting has become somewhat serious, more serious now than ever in Israel. Now, there's a couple of articles. In case you think I'm making this up, the Times of Israel, 28th of April, 2016. Spitting is what some Orthodox and far-right Jews against any Christian that crosses their way. November 7, 2011. It's not uncommon for Haredim, this is the Shmooze, a Jewish culture zine. It's not uncommon for Haredim to spit on members of Christian clergy in the streets of the Old City. Haaretz, another Jewish newspaper, quoted members of both the Armenian and Greek Orthodox churches as saying that spitting incidents happen all too frequently, and it's hard for younger clergy to hold back from responding either verbally or physically. And then a senior Greek Orthodox clergyman attended a meeting at a government office in Jerusalem's Givat Shaul quarter. When he returned to his car, an elderly man wearing a skull cap came and knocked on his window. When the clergyman let the window down, the passerby spat in his face. Now, most clergy prefer not to lodge a complaint with the police, and told an acquaintance that they are used to being spit at by the Jews.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time.
And according to Haaretz again in 2004, I know Christians who lock themselves indoors during the entire Purim holiday. Nobody knows where this custom of spitting initiated, but some scholars believe it originated from the Christian Bible. See? And the miracles carried out by Jesus through the use of saliva. He cured a blind man by spitting in the mud and putting the mud on his eyes, and cured a deaf man by spitting in his ear. But you see, again, I told you it was all our fault, you know.
Well, that's where they got it.
Yeah. So it's that's from the JewishVirtualLibrary.org. Then we'll skip over that. All right. With COVID-19, however, the practice of spitting has gone beyond the Orthodox Jews. During Israeli army raids on Palestinian homes, soldiers spat at parked cars, at ATMs and locks, in order to raise fears of deliberate attempts to spread the virus and cause panic in the Palestinian society. That's according to Euromed. Article 56 of the Fourth Geneva Convention does not say anything about the need for members of the occupying power to stop spitting at occupied and subjugated communities.
Doesn't?
Most likely because it's a given that such sordid behavior is completely unacceptable. Yeah. Okay. Article 56 does require Israel, the occupying power, although you can't say that in America. You cannot call Israel an occupying power, to ensure that all the necessary preventive means available to it are utilized to combat
Not
the
even
spread
in New York?
of contagious diseases and epidemics. So Israel appears to be deliberately trying to spread the disease among Palestinians, whose medical resources are already depleted by 55 years of occupation, especially in Gaza. Palestinian workers who exhibit any sign of the flu are unceremoniously dumped on the side of the road. In other words, if you're in the back of a truck going for a day job and you start sneezing, they're going to throw you out of the truck.
Just right there.
Yeah, without even a test.
No warning.
No warning. You're out. The government allows only a trickle of humanitarian aid through to Gaza and the West Bank, and there's a severe hospital bed shortage and lack of respirators. Now, while
kind of like here.
Yeah. While American hospital care workers worked without protective garments, Jared Kushner made sure millions of masks got to Israel. And we also canceled 1 million masks going to Canada, just as an aside.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So while countries were sending aid to Italy, Israel sent aid too, but only for Italian Jews.
They know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I know. They're very generous, but especially to themselves.
Especially with themselves. Yeah.
And, the prayer, there's a prayer that they say in Lubavitch, Hasidic Lubavitch, which is the group that Ivanka and Jared belong to. And part of the prayer is, thank God that we praise the Master of all things, that he has not made us like the nations of the world, nor caused us to be like the families of the earth, that he has not assigned us a portion like theirs, nor a lot of all the multitudes. So,
well, they're special.
Yeah, they are special. They're the chosen people, and everybody else is not.
Right.
So the idea that, we are a Judeo-Christian society is only started being talked about after World War II.
Well, that was nonsense.
Yeah.
That was always nonsense.
Yes. I mean, it's more likely Judaism is actually more akin to Islam than it is to America.
Well, Adam said, there was no relationship to Christianity. The Constitution had nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. The Constitution doesn't mention God once.
No, not once.
Which most other countries do at least mention God in some way or another. It's not always that wrong. I mean, Russian society is
they were true to the separation. That's
right.
Basically what it was.
Yeah.
They didn't deny the existence of a creative origin of the universe. They just didn't want it to be in a secular document.
Right. And for the most part, not all of them were deists. You may disagree with me there, Leland. Some of them were actually
I didn't
Christians.
say they were all.
Yeah.
I just said the majority of them were.
But deists essentially don't believe in divine intervention.
That's right.
They believe in the great watchmaker.
They believe in a natural religion, a natural deity.
Right.
And some of those ocular demonstrations of power that are so often referenced by Christians are just that. They're ocular fantasy, basically.
Now, especially Protestants, they depend a lot on the Old Testament, but that's one reason, I guess, why I'm not a Protestant. Because, but at any rate, the Bible does form part of the legal basis in America, the common law.
Yeah, common law.
But it's also very much involved with I think it's more accurate to say that Western society is a Greco-Roman Christian society, and now it's becoming more and more secular, of course. Western Europe is. But to automatically say we're a Judeo-Christian society is going a bit too far.
Oh, it's out there.
Yeah. So,
but it's been so oft repeated that it becomes commonplace.
Right. It's
as an understanding, and there's basically no basis for it.
Right. And so, but it's the fact is that the Jewish religion, the covenant, many theologians say the covenant with God ended when Joshua conquered Canaan. In the Old Testament. Others say it was when it ended when Rome destroyed Jerusalem and burned down the Second Temple because they refused. I mean, this is Christian theology. I'm not saying it's historical. Rome did burn down Jerusalem in 70 A.D.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that this is what some theologians say, that meant the end of the Jewish covenant and the beginning of the Christian covenant. So I know you don't study theology at all, but...
Well, Paine has a lot to do with it. Paine has been an extraordinary mentor for me, so I dismiss virtually everything that I hear in that regard from those sources.
Well, I was brought up religious. I'm no longer that religious. I don't attend church, but I do have some kind of spiritual beliefs that I'm searching for the truth and everything else. Yeah, sure. Most people do.
I just disavow those sources for it.
And now that I've been quarantined for the last month, I've been looking at YouTube more than anything else, and there is a good series there on church history and Christian history that I've been looking at, so I'm brushing up on all kinds of history during the last month.
Yeah.
I got to get to work.
Well, I feel pretty good about things because security has backed off all of a sudden. I can't find them. They were out there a minute ago, and I can't find them now. So.
Yeah.
Got through another segment on Talking Truth to Power.
Yes.
There's just a quick reference here to 2 cats have been tested positive for COVID-19 in New York. The first infected U.S. pets here on Drudge.
I've heard that a couple of I've heard about a dog or something.
Yeah, I did. That was overseas or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, join us again next week.